All right. Happy Wednesday. Hope you guys are having a good week. We're going to run it down tonight on the live like we always do over here on TikTok. And we're here on YouTube and X as well. Anything. Ask me anything, AMA. We run these. We do these every Monday and Wednesday night. Get into estate planning, how to mitigate taxes, what that's going to look like on the other side of price appreciation for digital assets and the industry as a whole. We talk about global macroeconomics, markets, and everything in between there. Interesting week. A lot of things happening with the administration. A lot of executive orders being signed. Going to be very interesting to see how things play out here for the rest of 2025. Off to a fantastic start. 2 seconds. Turn off the background noise for you guys. So again, there's a lot of people speculating that Trump is going to remove income taxes on digital assets here in the U.S. For crypto-based companies or U.S.-based crypto companies. I'm a huge proponent of that. I would love to see that. I think that would incentivize a lot of people that maybe have offshored their operations over to Dubai or Singapore or some other jurisdiction to come back here to the U.S. and set things up. I think that it would really foster innovation here and drive people back into the U.S., like I just stated. I also think that it would be imperative that he would do that for specific applications for digital assets. So if you're going to use networks to settle value in any way, whether that's on Hedera or the XRPL or XDC. XDC is going to be overseas. Atul and Ritesh are there in Dubai, and they're not coming here to the U.S. XLM, you got not Hashgraph, excuse me, that's HBAR, but that one too. You got Hyperledger for XLM, Algorand's here in the U.S. as well. I think there's a lot of quote unquote ISO tokens. Everybody calls them that. I'm specific about what that actually means. There's really only 2 tokens that are compliant with that standard because of companies that have a messaging standard that accompanies the instant settlement using those networks. But all of that ecosystem, if you've been around the XRP community, you hear rumblings about IOTA, HBAR, Algorand, XRP, XDC, XLM, Quant, which is Overledger. There's a lot of different networks and protocols that will band together that'll be used in specific applications, but need to be interoperable for the internet of value. Just like we have the internet of data, there'll be an internet of value, and all of these protocols are what make that up over time, in my opinion. So excited to see that. Excited to see a forward-facing crypto Congress. You've also got a lot of rumblings that the SEC case may settle against Ripple in the next week here. Now that Gary's gone, he was out on the 20th. He stepped down and resigned as the head of the SEC there. Now we've got Paul moving in. Excited to see that. I think he's going to be championing crypto. And they put together a crypto task force to put clear rules of the road around digital assets here in 2025. Going to have the removal of SOB 121. Banks and institutions should be willing to hold those digital assets on their balance sheet and provide services, just like we do at Digital Wealth Partners for people with their digital assets. I'm sure that there will be a lot of competition that crops up over the next 6 to 8 months here with clear rules of the road, but I'm highly confident in the solutions and services that we're providing there at that wealth manager, that we will continue to be the leader in innovating, the services and products that we can provide our clients in that capacity. We'll see, what they roll out, but I have a feeling we're, 8 to 12 months ahead of a lot of the investment banks and what they are going to be able to build and put together, just because we've been going through, like, cutting down the trees with the machete, blazing the path of getting things to market and putting it together in a way that makes a lot of sense for people. So anyway, super excited. Happy to be here in 2025. It's been a long time coming for a lot of people. I know that there's been many people that have been with me the whole time in the bear market, and even since the previous bull market in 2021. I've got a lot of people that, I was talking to a gentleman earlier today that's dollar cost average over this period. He's had a couple promotions during this time in his career and been able to really stockpile a really good bag of a couple different digital assets. And so I'm excited for him and his family to kind of see the payoff, of his hard work over the past 3 years here, really just piling in when he could and dollar cost averaging into a lot of these protocols that I think are going to be highly used on the other side of regulations here in the U.S. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hop into the chat here. Just wanted to, exude my enthusiasm for the space. And before we get started, shout out to Hal Davis for sending me this shirt. He does a lot of screen print stuff for us in the mastermind and DWP and other things. So appreciate him and his family and all that they do for the group. And that's the other cool thing about the mastermind. We've got so many cool people that do different things there, and they all support the community in their own way. And anyway, just appreciate him sending that over. Figured I'd shout him out since I was wearing it tonight. So I'll go ahead and hop in here. We got CS2424. They say, hey, Jake, you believe an LLC is necessary over 50,000 for anyone over 50,000. Would the money be better spent buying more XRP or XLM? So that's the cost to benefit that I weigh, right? Wherever you think the price is going to go, depending on how much you have. So maybe that number is a little bit higher than that if you're married. But if you're single, you're only going to get it close. You get 13.99 million here in the U.S. that you can move or gift out of your estate, your taxable estate, at some point in your life. If you're married, you and your spouse get almost 28 million. It's like 27,980 that you guys get between the two of you that you can gift out of your taxable estate over your lifetime. And that threshold may come down here in 2026 back to 7.5 million. We'll see if that ends up being the case or not. They may push it up, may go to over 14 million. That's what I'm hopeful for. So you're really kind of weighing the balance here. And I created a calculator a long time ago that we shared in the mastermind that you can work with to figure that out. That's cost to benefit. If you put $1,500 or $3,000 into crypto versus paying for the LLC, the appreciation on that versus the taxes that you might be able to save if you're doing that now versus later. You're always walking a line, right? So, if you're married, it's probably closer to that $80,000 or $100,000 threshold. If you're single, it's probably close to that $50,000 or $60,000 threshold is where I'd really start to look at paying for the LLC, because the cost to benefit there and the time frame, the anonymity that provides for you, because that's another consideration that I didn't mention in the video that we put out earlier today. If you're operating with these assets in your personal name, I don't know that this will be a mandatory thing, but on the ledger, you can see the exchanges, right? So if you type in the exchange name, it pulls it up there. And over time, as they have digital identity on chain, I think in order to maintain anonymity and privacy, and not have your name or credentials or other things out to the open world that you own these assets, it's going to become paramount that you hold them in an LLC or a trust or some other entity other than your personal name. And, I know there's been some pushback on that, and that's okay. I would just say this. All of the wealthiest people that I know own nothing and control everything. And they do that by moving assets into entities that have anonymity, that have other people's name on them, that have managers outside of themselves, but really they still control the assets in there. An LLC is a very effective way to do that, very low cost way to do that in comparison to a trust. It's a fantastic first step. It just provides you the most flexibility on the other side of price appreciation to really pivot whatever direction you want to go, whether that's setting up your legacy and your estate for your children and beneficiaries and building out a family office, or if you just want to live your lifestyle and enjoy your life and have a good time. Talked to a gentleman the other day that runs a family office. He is single, ready to mingle, 40 years old, and he wants to have at least $150,000 a month in income in order to live the lifestyle that he's accustomed and wants to live. Nothing wrong with that. Go out, pop bottles, get on the yacht, enjoy your life. He's not egotistical or flamboyant, but he has a certain lifestyle that he wants to live, and he is capable of doing that. So more power to him. And then you kind of have other people that want to do the philanthropic route, right? You want to set up a foundation or a charitable remainder trust or a donor advised fund or have an endowment, so that you're really able to bless other people around you in your community or whatever cause your heart is drawn to. And there can be a combination of all three, right? It's not like you have to pick one or the other, but having assets in an LLC puts you're in a prime position to move in any one of those directions, whatever it might be. Just gives you a huge amount of flexibility and ability to offset taxes. I'm with everybody else. I would love for there to be no taxes on XRP or XLM or HBAR or Algorand. You're not going to get around the gift tax, though. The estate tax isn't going away. Capital gains and income tax, sure. I'll give you that. That's a possibility. But gifting the assets out of your taxable estate, if that's something that you want to do, that threshold is going to remain in place, and that is a consideration. And one of the benefits of having the assets in an LLC is you can squeeze that valuation down. So let's say your assets go to 50 million. You got 50,000 XRP, goes to $1,000. You got $50 million, and you have those assets in an LLC. You can gift small portions of equity to friends or family and get a valuation done on the LLC, and you can squeeze the value of the LLC down about 30 or 35%. So now it's worth on paper $30 million instead of that $50 million, which is what the assets are really worth. And then you can gift it out of your taxable estate at the full amount that you need to into the trust if you wanted to go that route. I put together a whole breakdown of this that we're going to have in the mastermind for people on when you might want to transition from a non-completed gift grantor trust up to a completed gift grantor trust over to a completed gift non-grantor trust, and the circumstances under which each one of those makes sense. We have estate planners that help walk our clients through those things, but just at a high level, kind of broke those things down. We also put together the holistic future path for what it looks like to do each one of those things, whether it's your lifestyle, legacy planning, or philanthropic focus. There in the mastermind group, we have videos on that for people. Just going to continue to try to drive value there to that group. So if that is something you're interested in, or you want the LLC, here's the 2 codes for you. You can go check out the mastermind. It is mastermind.beyondbroke.com. Let's see, I'll put it back up here at the top. We'll get out of this chat and then it'll take you back up there. So it's beyondbroke.com. You go check it out. The code for the free month there to the group is beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1. And then MO like Mary Oscar a month, get you a free month there in the group. Talk about a lot of this stuff and more. I have, professional conversations with a lot of different business owners and entities. Talking with R3, they're going to be at our event in April that we're putting on. And that's an exclusive invite-only event also, just to let people know. And then, we talked to Ripple. We talked to a lot of people. Talk about a lot of that stuff there in the mastermind. And then, again, if you want the LLC, I posted this on Twitter earlier, probably going to take it down at some point, because half off is a really good deal. We normally only provide that to mastermind members, but figured I'd throw it out there for people that want to check it out. So that is 50 off, OFF, DAG, like Digital Ascension Group, LLC. Normally $3,000 for the LLC, but if you put that code in, it's only $1,500. They get you the EIN, articles of organization, registered agent, certificate of good standing. If we need to file the BOIR, beneficiary of intent, we'll do that. The operating agreement that's fully curated toward a holding company that manages digital assets, all done for you. If you are in a state that requires registration there, even with the LLC being in Wyoming, we can do that as well. So would love to provide that for you guys if that's something you're interested in. I'm highly confident that price appreciation is right around the corner here in the first quarter of 2025. And on the other side of that, I think there's going to be a lot of people that run into tax issues or estate planning issues. First people I'd be calling, I will be calling when my assets appreciate, will be my attorney, and then my CPA, and then probably my spouse. And it'll be in that order. You can say what you look. My wife will know, but she's watching it too. But you want to make sure that you're shored up and in place, and that you're not going to put yourself in a poor position or behind the eight ball. And so that's what we're out here trying to give people the insights on. Again, you don't even have to work with us. If you want to set up your own LLC in Wyoming, more power to you. Go work with another attorney. They're going to charge you somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 just for the operating agreement. I know because I've priced it. I've had other attorneys draw it up. And the filing, you can do that yourself. You can try it through LegalZoom. You can do it through the state. You can deal with the IRS yourself. There was a gentleman on here just a few days ago that said he's been back and forth with the IRS for 2 months trying to get his LLC filed there in Wyoming, which I hate to hear. I think we've had one back and forth with the IRS out of 600 plus LLCs that we formed. So not a whole lot of friction for us on that side, which is great. But anyway, we'd love to help you guys in that capacity if it's something you're interested in. If you want that link, it's going to be at digitalfamilyoffice.io, and it's going to be the LLC formation form there on the site. So we'll go back up here and get into the next question. We have Atlantic Living always has great stuff. Appreciate you being here. They say, can you speak on March 10th date regarding ISO 20022 in relation to banks, and also the end of November 2025 deadline as well? What do these timeframes both mean, and what is required? The drop dead date for everybody to be compliant is November of this year. So all banks globally, as far as I'm aware, must have implemented the ISO 20022 standard for messaging and sending payments by November of this year. I think it's likely that you could see a portion of those banks go live with instant payments before then. That would really incentivize people to speed that up, because they will be at a disadvantage if they haven't already gone through that process. And that may be what we see here in March. It'd be interesting. I think 2025 is definitely the year of stablecoins. I'm going to make that prediction. I think you're going to see a ton of stablecoins come out this year. And with that, instant payments is definitely going to be a thing. The Internet of Value will spring to life here. And the March 10th date, I haven't done enough research on that. I just know for sure that November this year is the absolute drop dead deadline for everybody to meet those. Otherwise, they will be cut out of SWIFT, as far as I'm aware. Let's see here. This person says, if you had $2K to spend on crypto and had a bag of XRP, what would you buy today? I don't own anything else. I'm still buying XRP. Even today at $3, I think anything up to $50, just like on Bitcoin. And again, nothing here is financial advice. This is me and my opinion and what I'm doing with my money, not for you specifically. You just asked me specifically what I would do with this money. So this is not telling you what to do. Just want to be, if you want specific advice for you from a wealth manager, you can reach out to digitalwealthpartners.net. And they will tell you to buy more XRP. I can't do that. So anyway, I'm still stacking that. That's until we see $1,000 XRP. That's when I'll start divesting and looking at other stuff. HBAR is definitely the first thing on the list there. I think XDC's fantastic. DAG is another sleeper. Axelar, I think, is cheap. There's probably 6 to 10 other networks that I think will really have some significant ROI and adoption here over the next 5 or 10 years. And those are where I'm looking here in the short term after XRP does hit 4 digits. Wild Bill, appreciate you on the super chat, brother. He says, domino theory makes sense to me up until BTC loses. Losses need to be settled in real time, so XRP is needed. Seems like a jump there. Can you explain more? Sure. So on February 28th, last year, the DTCC and the majority and all of the markets here in the US moved to T+1 with the option to settle real time in a digital asset. And that language is in the update that they put in there. But right now they settle T+1. And so with that, if you had unrealized losses for Bitcoin, say on a Friday, okay, and it's late in the day on a Friday where everything starts burning to the ground, Bitcoin loses 50% of its market cap, which has happened before. It's reasonable. This is a very volatile space. It only takes Tether or something else crazy happening, another exchange, a huge Binance goes down, okay? I don't think that's going to happen, but just work with me here. So there's panic, pandemonium. People liquidate their positions. They're selling. They're getting out of the position. These banks, before they just had the spot option, they were holding BTC, and they can't sell that real time. They can't just de-risk from it. It's going to take them a day for those trades to get unwound. And because this operates real time, mostly, I mean, Bitcoin's not real time, but it's like, 30 minutes to an hour to settle transaction on that chain. It's still much faster than 24 hours to settle something, okay? So now there's huge unrealized losses. And the reason that those are compounded is because the options that they listed and created with IBIT. IBIT, when they went and put out their options on the Bitcoin ETF, I was excited to see people take some short positions and hedge their bets so that if there were losses, they would be able to recoup them. That's not what everybody did. Everybody just took out leveraged longs on the Bitcoin ETF. So now if there were a huge liquidation event in Bitcoin, 40, 50% drawdown in an hour, which has happened, again, hasn't happened this cycle, could definitely happen. You'd see mass liquidations of the ETF. There'd be huge unrealized losses because of the leveraged longs on Bitcoin. And now they would have to then figure out how to make themselves whole because they couldn't settle real time. So all of those people that have sold off the ETF, because people that hold the ETF, they're not diamond hands, okay? They're there for gains. And as soon as the gains are gone, they're fair weather. They're out. People are selling that ETF. They're de-risking, okay? You could have something else come out about Bitcoin, say, and it doesn't have to even be true, okay? Maybe they associate it with Epstein, right? We're going to get that list now that Trump's in office. Maybe they associate it with that and child trafficking. Again, doesn't even have to be true, but if it's sold to the public as true, people are selling that like hotcakes. They're gone, right? So there's a big move down. There's unrealized losses. They need to settle real time. The only options they have two options. They can sell off positions in the traditional stock market in order to cover those losses, which causes problems there, especially if the first domino is the reverse carry trade. There's already going to be huge selling pressure on traditional stocks, so they're going to have real unrealized losses there. So they're not going to continue to sell off positions. They can't, because it'll just exacerbate the already huge downtrend in the market. So they're going to have to find something to be able to settle real time to be able to like mitigate the unrealized losses that they're going to have from the Bitcoin because of the T+1 settlement. And that's why I think they will launch the ETFs for Bitcoin, the ETFs for XRP. You got 21 shares, you got iTrust, you got Bitwise, you have one other one, Canary Capital. And then I think BlackRock's going to throw their weight behind it. They already filed the trust in Delaware. They got swept under the rug in November 2023. I think they could just pull that sucker back out, file the S1 and go off. You got Robbie Mitchnick there at BlackRock, who came from Ripple and removed it from his LinkedIn so that people wouldn't know. Fink has talked with Garlinghouse multiple times, and every time they've asked either party about an XRP ETF, they say they can't talk about it. So if you wanted to move huge amounts of liquidity into XRP all at once to drive the value to something you needed to settle the back end of the stock market, the ETF is the way to do it. And I think you could see huge outflows from the Bitcoin ETF into the XRP ETF if it were there in portfolios for people to move that liquidity around at the institutions. So hopefully that gives you a little more clarity around why there would be unrealized losses and the huge impact that would have for the investment banks and the environment I'm discussing where the reverse carry trade is already unwinding and there's huge downward pressure on other traditional stocks. They're going to need some way to offset their balance sheet and the unrealized losses that they will be facing. And I think XRP presents a fantastic opportunity for them to do that and shore things up. Here we go. Liner says, hey, Jake, hope all is well. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well as well. After the initial capital contribution at the start of an LLC, under what circumstances would you need additional contributions notarized? So if you're just going to continue to add to your positions in that wallet that you contributed, no issue. You can do that. Just the actions on chain of adding assets to that wallet serve as a written action or written consent because it's a public ledger. Very simple. You don't need to do all the accounting in your own book, excuse me. When you're adding a new digital asset to the capital contributions page, that is when you would need to go get that notarized on the date that it happened. So let's say you added just XRP to your, and maybe it's XRP BTC, okay? Added that to your LLC first, and then a few months later, you've got enough of those, feel confident in those positions, and you want to start to diversify into HBAR and XLM. Well, you don't have wallets associated with the LLC for your HBAR and XLM. So now you go fill out another capital contributions page. It's another amendment, or it could be, it would be an amendment. You just go get that notarized, and those new wallet addresses that you use the capital contribution for that will now be in the LLC, and you just continue to add to those positions until your heart's content. So hopefully, I think that answers your question, but if you have any further ones, please let me know further down here in the chat. I did see some super chats, so I'm going to jump to those, make sure there was a nice lady in here that let me know I missed her super chat the other day, and I felt horrible about that. I did go back and find it, but if I ever do that, please let me know in the chat, because if you paid, I'm answering your question. Appreciate you here, Young Quavo 2, on the super chat. We have, Bill already asked that one, and I'll move on down here. Oh, we're over here on TikTok. Person says, can I trust my XRP on Coinbase? I don't trust Coinbase at all. They haven't given anybody their airdrops for almost anything. They're still on a lawsuit with Fred Rusipoli over the Songbird. They finally gave up the flare after people beat down their door. They took all of the Bitcoin Cash that was supposed to be distributed to their people. So if you're looking to get any type of airdrop for anything, I would hold it in a cold wallet and get it off Coinbase. I prefer Decent or Zaman for XRP. If you can't hold it in institutional custody with Digital Wealth Partners would be my main preference, but either one of those would work great. James Hall, appreciate you on the super chat, brother. He says, Jake, if you were to make the clear rules of the road, what would some of those rules be? And also, who cares about Lambo when accredited? Soon, very soon, James. Accredited very soon. Rules of the road. People probably aren't going to like my rules of the road, to be honest with you, James. I think you need clear disclosures for people so that they understand the risks of what they're investing in, and you shouldn't be able to just rug people and take millions or billions of dollars from innocent people and get away with it. I don't think that that's okay. Even Trump's meme coin and everything that happened there, I'm really not cool with that. I like Trump for a lot of reasons. I don't agree with him on everything, but I think that's okay. I think that he's the right man for the job out of the choices that we had. And I think that we're going to see, a huge level of prosperity here in the U.S. because he has stepped into office. I trust him to do that, right? But as far as the rules of the road go, if you're launching a new token, I want two clear white papers. I want one on the technical components of it, and I also want one on the marketing component of it. And I want to be able to review those on some centralized site that's like a Better Business Bureau that does the grading on those papers and how they were presented. I actually put together an entire grading system for anybody that wants that. If you want to build that project, I would love to work with you in that capacity, just so that somebody will use it. The Better Business Bureau will not rate crypto companies because they just deem them all sketchy. But I think if you had like a real grading system, which again I put together, that's what I would use. And that's the rules of the road that I would put together. You'd have clear understanding of, who you do background checks on all the people. You'd be able to see the bank accounts associated with business. You'd be able to see the entities. You'd be able to understand what the utility or the outlook for the long term was on the token. If it is a meme token, the obscenities and a lot of the stuff in the space right now don't really jive with me. Everybody else, they invest at their own risk and do fun stuff. With Hat, I think is kind of funny, like just simple crazy stuff like that. But there's a lot of not so nice meme coins out there. Anyway, I won't name them, but I'd get rid of those. I'd get rid of the bad players in the space. You're always going to have people that come in and exploit when there's a non-regulated market. So you need clear rules of the road on how to operate, what that looks like, disclosures to investors, how to register with whatever agency you need to be registering with, whether that's the CFTC or the SEC or FINRA or FinCEN, whoever's going to be governing this, or if it's a completely new entity, that they spin up that's another 3-letter acronym, I don't care. But somebody that's over crypto and has purview, and they list out, look, if you're bringing a token to market, you need to do these things. You need to register with us. It needs to be clear to investors where they're going, where their money's going, what's going to happen, what you're promising, right? If it is some type of securities offering. We deal with people that do SAFs or simple agreement for future tokens. I think that's a really great way to do it. And then work with institutional custodians to, have accounts there, and then have maybe a tokenized representation of that SAFT that's exchangeable for the token once it's integrated with the institutional custodian. There are ways to do this in a compliant manner with the rules that exist. And again, I would probably err on the side of a little bit too much red tape, because I've seen so many people get burned at this point in crypto that just so there was a guy not too long ago that sold all his XRP and aped into Trump coin and lost all of it. Just held for years, held for 4 or 5 years, and lost all his money in Trump coin after he sold his XRP for that. So just things like that, and you might say, well, that's his choice, and it is his choice. You get good and bad with free markets, right? So if you have the stock market pre-1929, you have speculators, you have crazy stuff happening, there's volatility, there's a lot of upside, and then you also have all the scams. So kind of give and take on both sides. You kind of have to walk that line, like I said. But I'd probably err on the side of a little bit too much red tape, which probably wouldn't be in favor of most people, and that's okay. But on the accredited side, I think they could ratchet rules up on that side, but I think they could make the rules a bit more lax on the accreditation side. So in the UK, they have a status called sophisticated investor, which is the same as an accredited investor here in the US. And there's like 5 different ways that you can become a sophisticated investor in the UK and invest in private equity and other things. And one of those ways is you spend 2 years learning about an asset class or working in it. I think there's a lot of people here that have been here for 2 years in crypto, educating themselves, watching content like this, participating in the markets, doing things with a crypto company, something to that capacity that would qualify them to make an educated decision and be able to participate in these markets. But you can't, because here in the US, it's only net worth or income that qualifies you as sophisticated, or accredited. So I think there should be some type of test for each asset class for you to be able to participate as an accredited investor in those, or there should just be some other qualifiers that allow you to get access to that, because I do think that income alone is not a good predictor of people being able to assess risk in private markets. So appreciate you on the super chat, James, and I'm looking forward to the accreditedness of you and a lot of people here in the short term. Appreciate you, Kevin, on all the memberships being gifted here in the chat. It means a lot, and I know you're always on here trying to support, and we do appreciate it. Over here on TikTok, we got, what is my danger holding XRP on Robinhood if I plan to sell at a higher number? There's counterparty risk there. So just like a bank, they owe that back to you. I don't think you can move your XRP off of Robinhood's platform, but you can't move stocks off their platform either, right? So like they have the stock certificates. It's not like you hold those physically anymore for most people. So, you know, if you're planning to sell and you don't want to hold it over the long term, I think Robinhood may be a good partner for that. If you're planning to sell at all, you know, the exposure of loss there is something bad happens to Robinhood and you're a creditor of Robinhood, or XRP is designated a tier 1 asset by the BIS and they decide it's systemically important and they take it from you and they only give you the value that you bought it at and they don't give you the upside. Our government has a track record of doing that. So, you know, if you're holding it in a cold wallet, they're not doing that. They can't take it from you. It's yours. It's like cash in your pocket or under your mattress. And it's cryptographically locked. And if you lost your keys in a boating accident, they can't claw it back. XRP is not freezable, and you can't claw back the initial asset. Issued assets on the network you can. XRP itself cannot be frozen. It cannot be clawed back. So the government literally can't force you to hand it over. But if it is on a platform like Robinhood or PayPal, or even on a centralized exchange and not an institutional custody, there's a chance for that as well. So just a consideration. It's not a huge risk. I wouldn't say it's like the end of the world, but it's consideration. You know, I'd rather be safe than sorry. Just my 2 cents. We've got A&O. They say currently Tangem as hot wallet, who for cold wallet, or should I use 2 Tangem H1 C1? What up and coming penny cryptos on Ripple Network you're watching? All right. Yeah, Tangem card on Zaman wallet is not a hot wallet. It is a cold wallet. You have trust lines and other things that you can add to that. Those are cause for concern if you're just allowing people access to your wallet. That, you know, airdrops, that's how they happen. But I would be cautious there. I would make sure you're vetting the team. Yeah, I like that. I like Tangem cards. You know, nobody sees the keys. They're on that. I would make sure you have a backup card that you can. You know, you have in a separate location in case you lose the first one. You always have a backup in place. And I'm not really messing with the meme coins over there on the XRPO. Ripples, I think, is one. They did work with us to set up their LLC for their corporation. At least they're trying to do it right. I think they trademarked Ripples and like they're really trying to go after it. You know, I think that's cool. If there was one that I might look at, it might be that one. But again, I'm just in XRP. I think people are going to be very upset if they're swapping their XRP for meme coins over the long term. Is there alpha there in the short term before price appreciation happens for XRP? Absolutely. I've seen people double, triple, quadruple their bags trading meme coins and then swapping back to XRP. So not saying not to do it, not saying I'm for it. Me personally, that's not what I'm doing. But I think there is opportunity there for people that play the right timing. I just don't have timing. Honest Aim, thank you for the super chat, brother. Hope you and your wife are doing well. They say, Jake, thanks for all you do for us in the Beyond Broke Mastermind. If you haven't covered it yet, status of Japan's reverse carry trade, blessings. Let's take a look here. Japan is threatening very, very loudly that they are going to raise interest rates. It is 11 a.m. there. So they should be raising interest rates today because it'll be the 23rd in Japan right now. So we get the yen versus the USD. It's currently sitting at 156.49. Chart's looking flat there. I could see either a big move higher or a big move lower. It just depends on what they're going to do with interest rates. Where are we at on the JPY for the 10-year yield over there? 10-year. It's currently at 1.2. If they raise interest rates, you're going to see that jump. I don't know how much they're going to raise. If they come up 50 basis points, watch out. That is definitely enough to unwind the reverse carry trade and have people selling their positions in the U.S. stock market and treasuries in order to pay back those loans that they took out in yen over the past couple decades here. And that is the first domino. That's what's going to kick it, and that's what's going to put a huge catalyst in place. I don't think people understand how freaked out markets are going to be at scale when that trade unwinds. We saw a preview of it back in August last year, and we had 13% down in one day in the stock market before they limited down, and they were like, Bank of Japan, stop doing what you're doing. And they came out and they said, hey, we're no longer raising interest rates while there's market volatility. We're going to wait till there's no market volatility before we continue to raise rates. Well, guess what? We're here again. So just be aware, in the very near future, I'm expecting the VIX to spike, which is the market volatility index, and it's going to be to the downside in most markets, in my opinion. I think there's going to be a huge liquidation event. There's a lot of things that have become a bubble that look like they need to come back down a little bit before they make another move higher. NVIDIA is one of those. MicroStrategy's already started to move down. There's been a lot of stocks that have already started to come off the high and rotate into the Russell 2000. We've seen breadth open up there. And so, yeah, I'm expecting a large move down in the market here in the very near future when they do raise interest rates over there in Japan. We got Gary's asked about ADA over here. I like Cardano. I just haven't figured out what Cardano is going to be used for yet. There's a lot of decentralized gaming stuff that's going on in that ecosystem. We went to Rare Evo last year in Vegas and talked to those guys. Charles Hoskinson sponsored that. We met Caitlin Long there. And there's a lot of people building in that ecosystem. I just didn't see anything that I was like jazzed up about as a specific use case. I think it will be used in some capacity. Obviously, Charles is becoming buddy-buddy with a lot of other people. He wants his network to be interoperable. He's, a multi-billion-dollar family office himself at this point. We met his group over there that manages his money. Wave, I think, is their custodian for the ADA that they partner with for Charles and his family. Love what he's doing in Wyoming for the blockchain foundation there, and the charitable donations that he makes toward the universities and a lot of the education that he's providing people up there in Wyoming. He's actually only like 35 or 36 years old, if you guys didn't know. I'm 33, and so that was interesting for me to find out. He looks very wise. He looks like he has a lot of wisdom, a few more years than me. But anyway, he's been super successful. I think that ADA will be successful over the long term. I just don't know how to predict price on it or what applications it's going to fit into. We had another person ask about Insane Clown Posse over here. Just kidding. It's ICP, or Internet Computer. My business partner always gives everybody hell when they talk about ICP. I think they're a competitor to Hedera. I think Hedera is going to gain the majority of that market for decentralized applications in Web3. But I do think ICP will be a player. I think it'll end up being more like the Pareto principle, where Hedera aggregates maybe 80% of that vertical or that type of application or market. And then there'll be a few other players, including ICP, that fight over the other 20. Will the market cap get back to, the previous all-time high, like $750? Maybe, possibly. That'd be a lot of volume moving over that network to get back to there. There was a lot of speculation around it back in the day in 2021, I think is when it ran up to that. They also mentioned Tron, so TRX, Jason's son. They move a lot of Tether over that network is my main concern for Jason's son and Tron. He also gave Warren Buffett some Tron and some Bitcoin on a phone, and Buffett threw it in the trash. I don't know about you. I think Buffett knows more than he says, and for him to not call Bitcoin rat poison, obviously he's missed out on a ton of money, but he doesn't care. He's got $286 billion sitting on the sideline in treasuries to deploy and be the lender of last resort when the U.S. government needs it. He was the one that bailed out the regional banks when they flew into Omaha, Nebraska the same weekend that Silvergate and SBF and the other banks went down that were working with Circle and USDC. So I think he's divested some of his interest in Bank of America to get back under 10%, but he knows what's going on. Bank of America's using XRP, right? It's not like he doesn't know. So I'm sure that he has some allocation personally. I don't think he can do that, obviously, with his money there at Berkshire Hathaway. But I do think he's poised and positioned for the huge downturn in the market. But anyway, to go back to Tron, I, again, just don't trust it because of the association with Tether. And I could be wrong. Maybe there's money there. I'm happy to miss out on it. It's just not my cup of tea. Missed out on Doge, missed out on SHIB, missed out on a lot of other meme coins, missed out on Sol. This is the only one I'm not going to miss out on. So we got Carrie. He or she, not sure which one. I don't want to be specific either way. They have some assets that they plan to take profits on other than XRP. Should I still move to the LLC, and what's the best way to cash out? Will my regular bank account even accept deposits over 250K mark? They definitely will. It might take a little time for them to settle them, but they will accept them. So, but that's another benefit that you get with the LLC. So business accounts tend to transact larger amounts. If you have, private banking, or there's a banker at wherever you bank that can work with you for your business account, I would encourage you to go have a conversation with them now before you cash things out and move large amounts of money in there and they lock it up for 10 days or 20 days before they allow you to use it. And yeah, if you're planning on taking profits, the best way to do that is inside of an LLC, because now you can use those profits to, do a lot of things with. You could invest in real estate. You could set up an insurance policy. You could buy a vehicle. You could pay yourself, obviously. You are in the business of investing that money and managing that capital, and you're looking for opportunities to put that to work, and you're able to use the full breadth of the tax code to offset those capital gains that you're going to have. I'm assuming you're holding those assets longer than a year. So, worst case, you're looking at 20%. If Trump gets his way, we got no capital gains. And then you still get the benefit of the anonymity for those wallet addresses and those transactions. And it also gives you the most flexibility to move those assets into a trust or the other things that we talked about earlier in the call here. So, yes, your bank will absolutely accept. You can ACH up to $1 million a day into a bank account. Anything more than $1 million is going to have to be wired. It's Fed wire. It could still land same day if it's wired. So sometimes it takes longer than that, but in most circumstances not. But I would encourage you to have the conversations now and go ahead and set up the bank accounts in the name of the LLC, and it's a lot less likely that they will freeze your assets or hold your deposits when you're doing that. And I would also work with a very reputable, non-identifiable exchange in order to cash those out and send it there. So unless you've already done large transactions with the exchange before, then you shouldn't have an issue. But Caleb and Brown, it's very non-assuming, a great option there. And then also Anchorage, they're a federally chartered bank themselves, so they're going to wire over the money from another bank that's nothing to do with crypto, and you shouldn't have an issue there. So if you're working with digital wealth partners, don't have to worry about it. But again, I would go ahead and set up those accounts in the name of the LLC and have a conversation with your banker. Let's see here. Here's James Hall again. Just making sure I'm not missing any super chats here before I hop over to TikTok. Got a couple of them. Hunter, he says, take it easy on me. Okay. There are no stupid questions here, by the way, for people. The only stupid question is the ones you don't ask. There's lots of people that have the same question as you, and they just don't ask for whatever reason. He says, explain the stablecoin. If I take profits of XRP, do I move the stablecoin in or fiat? I don't fully understand its purpose. So here in the very near future, I'm highly confident that many merchants will accept stablecoins as payment. Until that happens, you're going to have to use fiat. So even though you have a digital wallet there at your bank, and that's what your bank account is now, you're still going to have to move it to cash or fiat in the short term if you're looking to take profit to spend it. If you're looking to take profit to trade it, holding it in a stable coin might make sense. RLUSD over there on Uphold, I think they're going to be paying you like 5% interest on your RLUSD if you're holding it there. USDC pays a very similar yield to people that are holding USDC. It's kind of like a money market. You set it over there, and you're going to get some yield on it, and it's a good savings account. That would be the reason you might use a stable coin. If you're going to put it back in the market or trade with it, makes the most sense. If you're going to use the money for everyday expenses, it's likely going to be fiat. So those are the two reasons that you might go one way or another. Hopefully that's helpful. We got Daniel Crockett. Very cool. Like the name. He says, if I have my XRP in an Uphold vault, will I be able to send it to institutional custody after appreciation, or would cold wallet be better way to go? The vault should be fine. You'll have a wallet address there for the vault. It is a cold wallet. They just hold the third key to be able to regenerate the other ones in case you lose them. I think Vault's a great solution that Uphold put out, and it turned a cost center into a profit center for them. I think that they were very strategic and intelligent in putting that product out for XRP. So yeah, no issue. If you're holding it there and that's the asset that you're moving over to institutional custody, you're fine to just list that wallet address for the vault in your LLC in the capital contributions page. Let's see here, a couple more super chats. If XRP XLM run out, wouldn't stacking be worth a lot? If XRP XLM run out, wouldn't stacking be worth a lot? So if there's a supply demand shock, I guess is what you're discussing here, and exchanges no longer have enough to sell people. What was the other day? There was an exchange the other day that ran out of SOL. They didn't have any more SOL, and they blocked trading on it. I don't remember which it was, but I saw that. Or they blocked your ability to remove it from the exchange. Trading paper SOL sounds like. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if there's a supply demand shock on XRP and XLM, you would see price skyrocket, kind of be like a short squeeze on the asset, which kind of has already started to happen. There's been some suppression of both of those assets for an extended period of time, and we've already seen a 400% rise in both of them. I think that'll continue. The last time we saw XRP move in this pattern, we got a 59,000% rise on the asset. So, hopefully we see something similar to that. That's what I'm waiting for. And yeah, stacking them would be, even at the prices now, makes a lot of sense in my opinion. And that's what I'm doing. So up to you. We've got Incognito. I always like one is their name. How long does the LLC process take before assets that we've moved are secured? Instant, as soon as you get it notarized. So you'll have to spin up the LLC. That takes some time. Wyoming approves them almost immediately, but the IRS takes anywhere between 3 and 5 days most of the time to issue the EIN number that we get back. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. Just depends on the IRS and the day. But in the capital contributions page, if it's a single member LLC, which it should be, if you're setting up a limited partnership or a multi-member LLC, you have tax implications when you move the assets in there. You can revise the operating agreement if you made that mistake, and it's okay. It's not a big deal. But again, ideally you're setting up a single member LLC. Most states have spousal rights, just so that you know. There are a few states that don't. So if you are in those states, that is a consideration. You can always list your spouse as a manager in that documentation and a signer on the accounts. I would suggest you do so. So unless you don't want to for whatever reason. So yeah, as soon as you've notarized that document and signed it in front of the notary, that wallet address is then in the LLC, and your assets are moved over. And now you've exchanged those assets for the equity in the LLC. That's what the capital contribution is to start the business. And now you still have full control over those assets. It's a member managed LLC. You manage those assets and see what you want to do with them, add to them, sell them. It's at your leisure. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Institutional custody, if you're talking about that, working with digital wealth partners, it does take a little longer to get those into Anchorage over there. Somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks is current lead time to go through all the KYC and the AML and the compliance and the red tape and all the other stuff. We're working on a solution that'll bring that down to 2 to 4 days, but we're not quite there yet. This person says, super chat, I want to know about having both a hot and cold wallet. I have Tangem. What strategy can I use to increase protection? Do I add the second wallet? Should I look at a different brand? No, I think Tangem's fine. I wouldn't keep things on a hot wallet unless you're going to trade them. So like Atomic or Exodus is probably what you're talking about for a hot wallet. It could be another one. It could be Trust Wallet. There's a few other ones out there. Atomic got hacked. Exodus has got hacked. Just wouldn't keep assets on a hot wallet or an exchange. Anything that you're planning on holding for a longer period of time and not trading immediately, I would have in a cold wallet. And you could have all of those in an LLC. That's not a problem. I like Decent as a cold wallet, and the reason for that is a couple different ones. The UI is fantastic. It's very user friendly. It has a biometric for signing transactions. You can add a 25th word for the seed phrase for more security. There's just a bunch of things there. The breadth of assets that they offer versus other cold wallets is fantastic. That's what I would use if I wasn't in institutional custody with my stuff. So this person over here, Terry Girl, says my son crypto is stuck in Chase Bank. How can we do crypto? I can't find a bank. Don't say crypto when you walk into the bank. That would be the first thing I would do. And not to I'm not razzing you. I've made the mistake too, is why I'm saying it. So again, this is why we set up a holding company that's in the business of investing assets. Okay. And when you walk into the bank and you're setting up an account, you're dealing with them. Say I have an LLC, it's a holding company. We invest in a large variety of alternative assets. We're looking at real estate. We're looking at private equity. We're looking at gold and silver. We're looking at other alternatives outside the stock market to make investments into. And that may or may not include crypto. You don't have to say that word. And they will ask you a few questions. They'll look at your operating agreement. They set you up a bank account. No problem. But if you go in and say, hey, I'm trading crypto, they're going to tell you, get out. We can't do an account here for that. So, and that's just what they've been told by their superiors. It's not like they're doing anything that they have control over. It's like weed or online gambling. Crypto is the same word to them. So it is what it is, unfortunately. I would, Mercury is good. We have a step-by-step process on how to set up a bank account for Mercury that people get with their LLC when they sign up with us. Something I didn't mention earlier, but I forgot about, and a full SOP on how to move the assets into the LLC, notarization, like step by step. We try to make it as simple and easy for people as possible. and how to go, again, set up a bank account so that you're not flagged and, high risk. Gary says he's got a Ledger Nano S. So here's the deal with Ledger. And again, I don't have any proof of this. We recently had a client and a good friend of mine hacked that had a Ledger. I know that this individual is competent. I know that he didn't share his keys. I know that he wasn't phished. I know that his wife didn't share the keys of that. He did buy that Ledger off of Amazon. So I would warn people against that. It's been years since he bought it, but somehow somebody hacked him. Okay, so just be aware of that. Only buy cold wallets from the manufacturer. Do not buy them off of other sites. Do not buy them off eBay. Do not save the money. Okay, if you can't afford it and pay full price from the manufacturer, you can find a solution out there. Do a paper wallet. Okay, I would just highly recommend that people get stuff in from the manufacturer and not off Amazon, because there is risk associated with that there. So. And then Ledger also had some firmware updates where they were going to put in a backdoor. Is that the cause of the hack and the loss? Was it a quantum computer that did it? Who knows? There's a couple different options here. We don't really know until the assets are recovered by the FBI, which they're working on. But anyway, again, Decent doesn't have those problems. That's why I recommend that one. Tangent Card, you got the keys in your hand. You got to hold it to the back of the phone or whatever other device in order to execute the transaction. I think that those are probably better stuff. And then again, over the long term, as quantum computers are at scale, I think that cold wallets will become obsolete, especially if you've sent and received from the same wallet. You've exposed both the keys. And unless you're resetting and rekeying that wallet every time you send a transaction out of it, it's probably just better to hold it in institutional custody where the keys are sharded and held across HSMs and level 4 facilities, and extremely quantum resistant in comparison to just a cold wallet. Stefan says, if I have a small amount of XRP, let's say 1,000 coins, should I still go ahead and open an LLC? I don't recommend that. No. If you have less than, if you're married, it looks like you are from your profile picture, $80,000 to $100,000 worth of crypto right now, that's when it starts to make sense to set up a company that's an investment company. If you got 1,000 tokens, the cost to benefit, I would just buy more. I would invest more assets. If you have that extra $1,500 or $3,000 worth of disposable income, buy more crypto with it. I don't like, look, we have this service and I try to promote it because I believe in it and I want to help people, but I'm not selling anything to people that don't need it. So I would highly recommend, looking at continue to add to your position before you set up an LLC if you only had $3,000 to $5,000 invested in crypto. I can't give you financial advice. You make your own choices at the end of the day. This person says, Terry says, can I use an S Corp to transfer my digital assets? You can. So here's the deal with an S Corp. A trust cannot own an S Corp. Another entity cannot own an S Corp. And so for future estate planning, an S Corp makes things cumbersome. There are circumstances where they make sense. So don't get me wrong. I don't know your specific circumstances. I would say in 99.9% of circumstances, it makes a lot of sense to set up an LLC and file it as an S Corp versus setting up an S Corp in particular. The other thing with a corporation versus an LLC is if somebody does sue you and that corporation owns the assets and they take the stock, they can sell those assets, pay themselves back, and then give you back the worthless stock for the company. Because an LLC has equity units, they can't do that. So it's very different than how stock operates. A lot of times you would like an S Corp or a C Corp to be the manager that manages an LLC that owns the assets, and you can set up a contract between the two where the S Corp or the C Corp does not own the underlying LLC. They just provide a management role and receive compensation for that. And then you could achieve some tax benefits there at a C Corp level because it's taxed at 20% there at the C Corp. And if you leave the majority of the assets in there and you're not paying those out, there may be some tax savings there. But again, I would love it if Trump just, removed all of the income and capital gains tax. But anyway, so I would talk with an estate planner before you pulled the trigger on that. There's a reason, that we do an LLC because we've seen that be successful for the most flexibility on the other side of appreciation versus using an S Corp that really inhibits your ability to set up another company that owns this or structure things that are the most advantageous for taxes. Kevin says, Clave, I think you should star in the next over-the-top movie around about arm wrestling. Yeah, they're not what they used to be, Kev. I appreciate that. They're still about 18 inches cold. But yeah, I'm not an arm wrestler. Arm wrestling's a lot about your stomach, if you didn't know. And you got to break the other person's wrist. My uncle was a professional arm wrestler, and he kicked my butt all the time. So not my game. I'm decent, but I'm definitely not a world champion or anything. If there's a movie about that. Don Pond, he says UK limited my access to different exchanges due to the regulations, which is MiCA. But now they expect me to pay my taxes when I have been restricted due to foreign exchange. That sounds like the UK, Don. I hate that for people over there. Anything under the Commonwealth, it's rough, man. They're going to get their cut and they're going to take it from you, and they're really going to make it not fun when they do it. I'm hopeful that on the other side of a lot of this, there's changes there for their tax regime too. But until then, best thing you can do is get your assets offshore into an LLC in Nevis or over there in Portugal if you have the money and the connections to do so. Take a few more over here on TikTok before we run it down to the next one here. John C says, what do you mean by non-defiable exchange when talking about transferring crypto? Non-defiable exchange. I don't think I used that terminology. Non-definable exchange? If you're exchanging one crypto for another, it's taxable. Or if you're swapping it for fiat, it's also taxable. Or for a stablecoin, it's taxable. And I'm not, maybe further down in the chat, if you can explain what you mean and kind of quantify what you're looking for, I'm happy to run it down. Just having a hard time understanding what you're asking. Terry Girl says, how do you sell your crypto when it's in a cold wallet? Where do I take it to? So you'd have to send it back to an exchange. So let's say you use foreign money. Okay, you go to another country. You're going to exchange some dollars for euros before you go. You're going to get it in cash. You're going to get those euros in cash. You're going to go to your bank. You're going to swap it. You're going to put it in your wallet. That's what you're doing when you are taking crypto off of exchange. You're taking a currency, putting it in your wallet. You can spend it. You could send it to somebody else and pay for something. But if you wanted fiat back, you want dollars back, you're going to have to go back to the bank or back to the exchange and give them back the euros, and they will swap it for dollars so that you can spend those in our economy. So think of it that way. You'd have to send it back to an exchange, which would be like Coinbase, Uphold, Kraken, Crypto.com. There's a lot of them out there where you can set up an account and they can swap it for cash for you. Thank you for the roses. Let's see here if I missed any other super chats on this side. Thank you. Poloni, is it Bo Poloni? No, Poloni 65. Hi Jake. Is it safe to draw some XRP from my decent and swap it, make some money with it, swap it back to XRP and store it in my decent? You just be worried, I wouldn't say worried. There's tax implications associated with those transactions, and as long as you're fine with those, then absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't see a problem in it. You're not going to have, your wallet address is no longer going to be quantum proof if that's your concern, because you've sent to it and sent out of it. But you can rekey the keys on the wallet and not have an issue. So yeah, I don't know if that's what you're asking specifically, but there are tax considerations with that. And if you can improve your bagger position, good for you. I hope you're able to do it, and good luck. Matthew, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, is 5,100 XRP and 3,000 XLM enough to be wealthy? I don't know how long you're going to hold it for, Matthew. Imagine holding Bitcoin back in 2012 or 13, and you had 1,500 or 3,000 of them. If you held it for another 10 years, yeah, you'd be very wealthy. If you have 51 Bitcoin right now, you'd have 5,100 Bitcoin. You'd have what, $51 million? More than that. $510 billion? No, $510 million. Yeah. So it just depends on how long you're going to hold it for and what price point you want to use it at. I think anybody that owns any XRP and XLM right now is way ahead of the general population. If you even know about this stuff at all, you are in a class of your own. It's probably just, so we got to 6 million wallets today for the XRPL. What? Pretty cool. There's 7.8 billion people on the planet. Like it's not even 1 in 10,000 people that hold XRP. So yeah, I think that's enough there, especially at $100 or $1,000 or $10,000 over the next 5 years. I think that's more than enough for you to do very well if you're able to hold it and just hang on. Again, not financial advice, just my one guy's opinion online. Let's see here. He says, which banks would be good candidate for the LLC? We have accounts at Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, Capital One, Navy Federal, Mercury. What's the other one that they talk about in the Discord all the time? Old something. Anyway, in the mastermind, there's a bunch of people that have got through and gotten bank accounts at multiple banks that they will tell you how they did it. If you would like to join there and just have a conversation with the people in there. But the ones I named off, I know will work with people. Again, you can't be like walk in the door and be like, I got a crypto. Like you can't say crypto. You have to say investments, strategic investments, and alternative assets. That's the language that you need to use when you're having conversations with banks. But again, in the mastermind there, you go check it out. There's a lot of people in there that have had a lot of success with this stuff. I think we have 1,300 people there in the group at this point, all in very similar situations to yourself with aligned interest and fantastic culture. If you want to go check it out, you can try it for 1 month for free. It is mastermind.beyondbroke.com. You put in the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, and then the number 1, and then MO, like Mary Oscar. They get you 1 month free for social or Carbon One there in the group, and you can try it out. Ask any questions you want in there. The community is so helpful. Everybody is in a very similar position to yourself, or maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 steps ahead of you. They've been through it recently, and they can help you along the way, which is awesome. And that's what's valuable. When you get a mentor and they're 30 steps ahead of you, it's hard for them to even remember what it was like to be in your shoes. It's really good to be a part of a community of people that are just a few steps ahead of you in the process and can guide you and help provide resources for you. Crypto for life with super chat. Thank you. They say super excited to be working with you, Jake. Awesome, brother. Same here. I strongly recommend using his services. Thank you for the kind words. Looking forward to having you on our live again soon. 68J. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah. For those that don't know, go check out James's channel here on YouTube. He does a lot of fantastic interviews there at Crypto for Life. And I just happened to be one of those, a couple different times on his channel. One here recently. We need to get another one going on the live side. But yeah, anyway, he's interviewed a ton of people in the XRP community and other people in the crypto space. Really like his content, and again, appreciate the kind words, brother. Let's see here. We've got Max Avery. He says, smash the like button and help me out. If you wouldn't mind, it does help the algorithm. Please comment below. Share with other people if you think this is valuable. We get on here every Monday and Wednesday night, run it down with you guys, and try to be, as open and honest and run down different questions for people. I get a lot of fulfillment from this. I really do enjoy it. This person says, Tasha says, I need to create an LLC for my crypto. Any recommendations on who can help set it up? We do this. So a Digital Ascension Group, if you want to go check it out, it's digitalfamilyoffice.io, digitalfamilyoffice.io, and you can go type in the right-hand corner, just type in LLC form, and it'll pull it down there for you. And if you put in the code at checkout 50 off OFF DAG, like Digital Ascension Group LLC, it gets you 50% off the $3,000 that we normally charge, so it'll only be $1,500. Again, you get everything that you need. You can ask us any questions. We make sure we help you get your assets over in the LLC, and make sure everything's structured the right way so that you don't have problems later on. And we would love to work with you, man. Let's see here. Off the Grid says liquidity pools. So this can be very interesting here in the next 4 or 5 months. When we talked to Joel Katz last year, David Schwartz, it's his, not his synonym, his moniker there on Twitter. We talked to him at Consensus about XLS 64, 65, and 66, which are amendments on the XRPL. There's the full shirt. And he said, maybe May, June here in 2025 is when those amendments go live or be voted on. He was right about the AMMs. I talked to him, the year before at Consensus in May, and he was like, yeah, I think, the AMMs, and I don't think he said live, but he pointed to October, and that's when they went up for vote, and then it took another 6 months for the AMMs to go live, and they weren't live until March of 2024. So, God forbid that happens again with these liquidity pools. You got to make sure things are running right and they work. But excited for those, because I think those are going to provide a huge opportunity for earning yield or returns on your XRP. And that's something that we're looking into at Digital Wealth Partners, and how we can provide that in a very compliant and buttoned up way. We're already working on those solutions now before those things come on network. And had a conversation with Anchorage about that today. So it'll be very interesting to see how those play out. Poloni65 says, oh, he's already asked this. This is something I already went over. It keeps rolling me back up in the chat for some reason here, which is okay. We've got, scrolling on down. Appreciate you guys hopping on here. Is it just going to keep looping me? I guess so. Maybe we're here at the bottom. All right, we'll take a couple more over here on TikTok, and then we'll probably wrap it up for tonight. We've been going on an hour and 20 minutes anyway, so we got about another 10 minutes here before I normally will lock it down. We got on a wallet address, can you tell the difference between a 0 and an O? Sometimes it's hard, man, and that's why people send assets into the abyss. I've sent, what did I have? Like $5,000 in Cello at one point, and I sent it to a wallet address that was on Onyx, and I think that Cello is worth like close to $100,000 now. It's just such a sinking, and I'll never get it back. I sent it to the address on the wrong chain. Like, there's no recourse. It'd be nice to get it back. If anybody knows how to do that, hit me up. I'll give you half that Cello if we get it back. Let's see here. Messing stuff up. What happened? There we go. TikTok's going crazy. Everybody always asks about price over here on TikTok, but I'll give it to you. It says, what's the price for XRP in the next bear market? I don't think there's going to be another bear market, especially not like we've had in the past where there's a 95% drawdown on some of these assets. I think that's And you're starting to see that with Bitcoin. Bitcoin hasn't had huge volatility this cycle like it has in the past because of the volume on the ETFs and other people buying in and it being used in that capacity. I think once you have enough volume moving over these networks, there's going to be price floors that they don't ever drop below, especially during the next quote unquote bear market. I think 4-year cycles are done. I think this is the last 4-year cycle. I think people have caught on to that. This is the 4th one, right? And everybody just assumes that that's going to continue into the future. Past performance does not predict future performance, and constraints change. And with regulation coming in, and now we have the ETFs in place, I think constraints around crypto are about to become wildly different over the next 10 years as they've been in the past. I don't think Bitcoin will be the #1 market cap in crypto much longer at all. I think XRP is going to move past Bitcoin and Ethereum, maybe even one fell swoop when they launch the ETFs. And the entire market dynamic will shift completely once Bitcoin is no longer the leader in the market. So bot trading would completely change their algorithm. There'd just be so many things that would be completely different with the constraints changing in that capacity. So excited for that. But also there's a lot of unknowns with those things. But like I said, if you're in assets that are going to be used and there's a certain volume of daily transactions that are moving over those networks, I think that that'll set price floors and the assets won't drop below those, which will actually make them a lot less risky over the long term and more likely to be adopted as a tier 1 asset in the banking system. And that's why I think the BIS will designate XRP in particular a tier 1 asset. Hunter says, where do you see the price points for XRP by Q4? 4 digits. Yeah. I don't think you're going to get derivatives this year, but I do think stablecoins and liquidity and probably the back end of the stock market will be settled over the XRPL by the end of the year. We had BlackRock's, somebody at BlackRock came out today and said, if you could tokenize the stock market tomorrow, it would democratize access to stocks and all this stuff. They know they've got securitized. They're going to tokenize the stock market. You've got Project Ion, which was developed with R3 and the DTCC back in 2022. They finalized that project, and that's what that's for. So, and guess where all that settles? It settles with the XRPL if there is enough liquidity. So, in order to provide enough liquidity for those transactions, you need $1,000, $2,000 XRP, somewhere in there. And that's my guess for this year by Q4. Let's see here. Brian Armstrong, Coinbase CEO, says BTC strategic reserve is basically 100% happening. Do you agree? He just said it on World Economic Forum yesterday. It definitely could. If they pull the plug on Tether, I don't know where that leaves Bitcoin. And if they were going to do it as strategic reserve, I would think they'd want to buy it at a much lower price point than 100,000. I think they'd want to wait till the bottom of the next cycle so that they could have the appreciation on it and offset some of the debt. Just my opinion. Maybe that's orchestrated. Maybe they pull the plug on it on purpose and then they buy a bunch of it and use it as strategic reserve along with XRP here in the US. I could definitely see it, but I don't think the actual value or the intrinsic value of Bitcoin is anywhere near 6 digits. I think that there is a lot of hype and speculation and ETF volume and other things that have pushed it to that point, including Tether propping it up with the liquidity it provides. I think a realistic value for BTC is similar to gold, not the market cap of gold, but similar to gold, somewhere around, I don't know. I think gold should probably trade somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000. I think that that's a reasonable price for Bitcoin, to be honest with you. And a lot of people would be mad at that, and that's okay. They've been very right, made a lot of money while I've been wrong. Me and Peter Schiff. So that's okay. We will have our day in the sun if you own XRP. And even if it's a 1-to-1 with Bitcoin and Bitcoin drops to 3,000 and XRP goes to 3,000, I'm good with that. Let's see here. He said, "Do you? Yeah, the strategic reserve. Um, yeah, no more 4-year cycles, Paul. In my opinion, and that requires a few constraints changing, right? So Bitcoin needs to no longer be the number one market cap. Have to have something bigger than Bitcoin. Regulations need to be in place. Institutions stepping in, and you would need ETFs for some of these other cryptos to come about, other than Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is on the docket. We saw a Doge ETF today. Bitwise put out a Doge ETF. So yeah, I think with those constraints changing, you're going to see very different market dynamics than you have in the past. And a lot of these people that espouse 4-year cycles that are predicated on Bitcoin's halving, I think are going to be caught off guard with some of the things that transpire over the next 12 months. We'll take one more over here on TikTok, and then we'll wrap it up. We got thoughts on Doge. Is it the Department of Government Efficiency or the cryptocurrency? Not sure. I like the Department of Government Efficiency a lot, and I think Elon's going to move in and Vivek and just slash things and make stuff happen and really reduce our spend at the government level, which I'm excited about. Doge, the asset, I think could end up being a stable coin. I've said this before on a few lives, but I think it could be a dollar-denominated stable coin that is backed by data on Twitter. I think it'd be very interesting if they went that route with it. It's got a large enough social following at this point, and Elon's backed it. He's manipulated the price on it and hasn't gone to jail for that, because I think the SEC owns like 25% of the supply. But yeah, I like Doge. It's not something I'll ever own, but I do think that it could be, repurposed as a stable coin in the future if it were backed by data and Twitter and used for payments on that platform. Let's see here. Can you explain how to get info on the masterclass again? Absolutely. So if you guys, again, want to join the mastermind, it is right here. Let's see if we can get it. There we go. Mastermind.beyondbroke.com. We do in real life events also, and we give the members the mugs. We do some other apparel and other things for people there in the group, which is cool. But yeah, if you want to go to mastermind.beyondbroke.com, the code for the 1 month there is Beyond Broke, all capitalized. The number 1, and then MO like Mary, Oscar, or month, the abbreviation for month, gets you 1 free month there in the group. If you do need the LLC, there's been a lot of people who have asked about that tonight. Again, you can go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and you look up LLC. And when you go to file it, you would just put in 50 off OFF DAG LLC, all capitalized, gets you 50% off the $3,000 ticket price for that. It ends up being $1,500 for everything that you could possibly want when it comes to setting up a holding company to manage your digital assets. So would love to see you guys there in the mastermind, or work with you to set up the LLC if you think that's something, again, that you need. Again, if you've got less than $50,000 to $80,000 in digital assets, I think it makes a lot more sense to just keep buying digital assets. But if you do have over those amounts, it can really start to make sense to go ahead and position yourself for the other side of price appreciation. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you'll have a wonderful evening, a wonderful week. We will be back next Monday to run it down on the AMA. If you do want to hear me between now and then, you can go check out the mastermind. I'm there every Saturday and every Monday with a lot more information than I put out here. But with that, I hope you'll have a wonderful week, and we will see you guys on the next one.